everybody. Thank you for joining us here back on the Real Estate Roundup. And today wanted to jump into crypto and real estate because number one, it's a hot topic in today's day and age, especially with crypto just kind of blowing up in so many ways. So is this irrelevant? I took time out of my day to get certified to be a crypto agent, as a real estate agent to help facilitate those transactions for people that want to go down that path. So I thought that this, if nothing else, would be an interesting and relevant topic to discuss. So Jalen, let me throw it at you first. As a lender in Colorado, based on what you know, irrelevant, stupid, best idea, newest thing that is going to turn the tide in not just real estate, but in currency. What are your thoughts?
Oh boy. Well, let's as a lender, first and foremost, you cannot buy a house or use it for a down payment. With 90% of lenders, it's not a regular type of stock. You have to liquidate it first because it's a currency. And it's not a stable currency at that. It can bottom out, as we've seen, and lose 60% of its value over a few days. And so if you were buying a house and all of it's in the form of a cryptocurrency, and then you right before you sign the closing documents, it bottoms out and now you don't have any more
Hold on,
money.
but you did tell me
Yeah.
you had to freeze that asset beforehand, right? So you're not waiting until the day before to
Yeah, it's
figure
a
out its
current
value.
market value.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a current market value. It's just
meaning you would freeze those
Coca-Cola.
assets
eh,
maybe 3 weeks before you know
yeah,
that your signing date, right? So you would never.
you're starting to liquidate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but at the same time, an underwriter is not going to accept current market value of a cryptocurrency the same way they will if you have stocks and bonds that you're currently in and needing to liquidate those.
Okay.
Those have those are historically pretty solid. Coca-Cola is not going to go bankrupt tomorrow. The Nasdaq isn't going to go belly up in one day.
Okay.
You see shifts, but you don't see that drastic of
Well,
shifts.
let's talk about shifts. Here's an interesting shift, I think, and that is LA Lakers, right? They renamed their arena, Crypto Arena, crypto.com. You've got it on TV now. You got Matt Damon at the face of it that's talking about crypto. You've got California that's come out to say they want to be the first state to regulate cryptocurrencies. And I want to be specific for our listeners. Cryptocurrency does not mean Bitcoin. Cryptocurrency is a very vague world in the finance world. So it's not just secluded to
Yeah, you have all your
Ethereum
favorite
and
dogs.
Bitcoin.
You have Shiba Inu. You can invest in Banano. These are very serious things that you need to invest in because if you don't, you're going to be left behind by all the people that have their Banano.
And
I
JP
do have
Morgan would
Banano.
tell you you're going to be left behind. They just came out saying that cryptocurrency is their number one asset they feel they want to invest in over real estate. They feel like there's more upside to the crypto, specifically with this. I don't know if it's bottomed out or not, but with this current loss of value, they feel like there's more upside than even real estate. So it's just one company. Nonetheless, it's a major player in the US.
Yeah.
I think it's
So
interesting.
they can't find any houses to buy is the real problem. There's just no houses to buy. So they're like, well, we have to do something. Nick,
Yeah.
can you give us a third party's view of this one way or the other?
Sure. Well, I would say that crypto and the blockchain, I do believe that it does have a place in our society, and that whether we want to accept it or not, it is going to definitely weigh in and have an impact. And it is changing. It is changing the way that people do things. And so it might not come out the way that we see it today. That might not be the way that it's going to move forward, but I think it's going to adapt and change, and it will be a part of the future landscape in some way. It might not be this in the same format that it is right now, but I think
Nick,
yes.
what do you feel like is a tipping point to say, yeah, it is going to be a mainstream thing? What do you feel like are major things that need to happen in order for it to be widely accepted?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I think that, well, once people are more comfortable with it and it's easier to interact with it. So for example, I'm not really in that space. I've dabbled a little bit, but it's so difficult to understand what's happening. You have to actually sit down and spend a lot of time just trying to figure out exactly does this work. And I know there's a lot of people, myself included, that don't want to put that time in to it. But if it's made really simple so that just basic, non-technological minded people can just get involved in it. So, and I know that right now there are a lot of institutions that are trying to make parts of that a lot more easy to access. And once it gets easy to access, then I believe a lot more people will start using it.
Makes sense. Jay?
Yeah,
Let's throw that question to you.
Yeah, the tipping point ultimately comes down to, for me at least, it's going to be regulation of some sort. The amount of rug pulling that happens in cryptocurrency space is probably one of the biggest things that hurt it, because you have some Instagram celebrity getting their 200,000 followers that follow them because they're a swimsuit model, and now they're taking her investing advice on her new coin. And you're like, oh yeah, I want to invest in that. The pretty lady said to. And then 2 days after the price of that one coin hits $1, they take out the $14 million worth of that coin that they have. And then all the people that invest their money lose it all. And there's people that do that. And that's because there's no regulation, which, the stock market does have that regulation. Basically everything else that we do when it comes to finances has that regulation. Cryptocurrencies are kind of those wild wests. They're not government backed. That's kind of another thing. The US dollar is saying that the US dollar is worth $1. Cryptocurrency is just like, yeah, hopefully enough people use it to make it still worth this much. But who's spending stuff like Bitcoin to buy something?
Right.
No one, because they're expecting the price to go up. So it's like, you have a currency that people are using as a collector's item. So what's the real use for it if no one's willing to actually use it as a currency? That's also kind of a problem.
Sure.
Gump, you've been crypto certified, and none of us are experts on this, by the way. These are all our opinions. Don't burn us at the stake. But you and your fake money. But Gump, let's if you don't mind, you've had more education than Nick or I, so kind of give us your final thoughts on it, where you see it going, where you see it currently is, and what needs to be done to the space in order for it to be more widely accepted.
Yeah, Nick alluded to this earlier, which is that you have blockchain, which is ultimately blockchain is not regulated by one entity, which I think makes any platform more secure, when everything doesn't just have to go to one hub, and that's the end all be all. So blockchain does make it a more complex, more secure platform that is become more widely accepted behind the scenes, whether people know it or not, which is essentially the stabilizing platform for all cryptocurrencies. So blockchain is a piece of it, and it's a segment of it, and it's a foundational piece that, again, it is already starting to become a norm, whether we know it or not. With that being said, I 100% agree with you guys. Regulation has to come in. I think for as much as people say, well, I want to use cryptocurrency because it's deregulated. Well, the challenge with that is what happens when it gets stolen? There's no regulation behind it. So sorry, you're just SOL. Like, I think you do have to have some standards. And there has to be some kind of policy to say, here's the rules we play by. So there is trust. Like, how do you build trust when things can just be so free to move, right? How do you create trust from societies as a whole? So I think it sounds nice that, well, no one government owns it, but at the end of the day, again, you have to play by some kind of rules that everybody agrees on, that there is some transparency. Otherwise, you just have a bunch of, like I said, wild west stuff going on in the background. I think it is interesting though, because younger generations are so much more willing to use technology. And I think cryptocurrency fits that mold, that's just a norm, right? You think of kids nowadays, they hit the iPad. I know a couple people that their kids just ran up the credit card because they knew what button to hit on the iPad. And that's an issue. And the kids have no concept for how money works. And I think crypto, as you guys alluded to, it's like, I don't know how it works, but it's so easy to use and facilitate. I think people like convenience. They like the ease of use. It's just a matter of wrapping our hands around it. I think an interesting piece though is Bitcoin going to be it? Is Bitcoin going to be the one? And I personally make this argument to those that I know. I don't think it is, because I think being a first mover, it's really difficult to stay at the top. You're learning as you're going. You can't learn from anybody else. And you're trying to tread a new path, which it probably has treaded a path for some crypto that we haven't heard of yet.
Yeah.
That is going to come behind and say, yep, not going to do that, not going to do that, not going to do that. Guys, here's how we do it. I think that's going to be an interesting one in the years to come, whether it's 2 years from now, 1 year from now, 10 years from now.
I'm gonna throw the banana hat in the ring. If there's just bananas next to every single thing to show how much banana it costs, I think that's a world that I want to live in. But that's just my 2 cents. That's my last 2 cents.
Okay,
or last two banana.
Well, and we didn't even touch on this one, NFTs. And NFTs.
Oh, don't get me started on it.
And I think they're interesting for the fact that they're not going to be, in my opinion, they're not going to be as widely used as crypto in terms of paying for things. I think an NFT makes a lot of sense for a ticket in that way, because you can't duplicate it in its purest form. And so it becomes easy to get rid of those that want to scalp tickets, right, at an NFL game and make a duplicate that looks exactly like it. You can't do that. And so I think that's a very secure, and it makes sense to use technology to facilitate that.
And then Ticketmaster will charge the NFT fee, which is 3 times the cost of the ticket itself. And then the digital ease fee, it's another $30 there. So it's, they'll make their money on it.
Yeah. Nick, any other thoughts from you as you're hearing all this?
So on the crypto thing, if and when it becomes as easy as like using a credit card, so you have a card, and then instead of having to go somewhere and trade it for this and trade it for that and then get your US dollars, if you could just swipe it and then you can get your Snickers bar or whatever, then that's gonna definitely catch whatever cryptocurrency that might be. And then for the NFTs, I did go to a conference about NFTs because I was trying to figure it out. Still don't know what's going on, but they did talk about what you had talked about, the ticketing thing and all kinds of applications that are similar to that. And I could see that it would be very useful in that. But it's still really early in the game for the NFTs, even, earlier than.
And I'll piggyback on that. And it's really early in NFTs and real estate specifically. And I say that because I think I can count on one hand how many transactions have happened to date, specifically with an NFT. The nice thing about technology is it facilitates information so quickly and ideally so seamlessly. I think the but in there is, where does the liability lie when it comes to something like a home inspection, when I can just quickly transfer a title from Gump to Nick, again, with a couple double clicks on my on a couple of double clicks of my cell phone, right? So as nice as that might sound, it's like, but who's at fault and how do you figure that one out? Because right now we have a process set up for that. And I think those are some interesting realities that we need to figure solutions out before we just are so quick to adopt a new, fast, quick way to transfer title. Being an NFT.
I think at that conference, they were saying that you can write into the NFT all kinds of conditions and things like that. So, but once again, it's one of these things that who knows that? We barely know that. So it has to be something that has to kind of grow up a little bit and get more widely known in what you can and can't do and what the possibilities are, so that people know what's supposed to be in there.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Jay, anything else from you?
NFT baseball cards. They're dumb. That's my last thing. Tops is I watch baseball every day and I see they're stupid. advertisements for NFT baseball cards. Like, what is the point of this? Like, it's a physical thing. That's traditionally what it's been. And yeah, so if that's the way that NFTs are going, I don't want none parts of it. Okay.
I'll conclude with tokenization. This is a terminology that we haven't crossed yet. Tokenization is interesting because it gives you a piece of the pie, so to speak, and specifically pertaining to real estate. It makes it more affordable because Jalen doesn't have to buy and save up for an entire house. He can go in within a group funding concept and own 2%, right? Own 2% ultimately of the equity that, assuming housing continues to go up, which it has for the vast majority of the time. I think that's an interesting concept because so many people do find it so difficult to own their own house and save up for that down payment and get all the closing costs. That's a new thing that's come up within the cryptocurrency space, is this idea of tokenization. So again, let's throw out some numbers. House is worth $1 million. Jalen's like, I'm never buying $1 million house, but I got 30 grand that I can work with. You can use a group funding to go into it, and a group spearheads it. You become a part of that, and now you're a part of real estate, but you don't own the whole thing. So if they sold it for 1.2 million, whatever your percentage is, you would get that back, however that fluctuated. So you don't own the house, you own a portion of the equity that gets built up through however long that corporation held on to that asset. So I think that's an interesting one that makes it a different avenue to go down when it comes to real estate. So it allows more players within the game, so to speak.
Sure.
Does that make sense to you too? And if so, what are your thoughts?
It makes sense, but it's going to make a lot more sense to the people that are already in that space right now. Like, since I'm not in that space, you can tell me, hey, you can get, 5% of this house. And I'd say, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to, because, I'm not familiar enough with it, but I know that there's a lot of people, and it's growing every day, who are familiar with that and how it works. And, they might do really well with it. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are not going to do well with it, but it's kind of that 80-20 rule thing. So 80% might not do well, but 20% will probably do pretty well with it. And so if you can be in that 20%, give it a shot.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on that last, just a quick, Nick is talking about just the money to buy it. So if you're still the one signing the loan documents, you have to be able to pay for $1 million house every month. So don't just, if that was something you could avoid, then we're going to have a 2008 all over again. So yeah, you still have to qualify to actually make that $1 million a month, or that $1 million house payment, for what, depending on how much for down payment and all that boring stuff that
comes into play.
Comes into play. So let's not, jump into that rabbit hole of all rabbit holes. But yeah, I think this was a fun discussion.
Yep.
I'll just reiterate my 2 points. Banano and NFT baseball cards are stupid. And Gump, why don't you lead us out of this one and into the next segment?
Yeah, I'll just stress, in my opinion, I think it's important to at least be aware. Not that you have to understand it all, but be aware of it, because I think putting your head in the sand on crypto, in my opinion, is a naive way to live life, because I think it is going to be around in some facet. It's just a matter of what. For those that want to try to make sense of it, I'm not, again, an expert in this space, but I want to try to educate myself and those that I know as best I can. So I break down in manageable chunks, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. What is blockchain? What is the idea of tokenization? What is a digital wallet? I have that up on my YouTube channel, so it's free information. Sharing it for those of you that want to educate yourselves a little bit more. Feel free to drop by. It's Nick Gumpert at Real Gump 365 on YouTube. So feel free to check it out. And with that being said, guys, we're going to take a short little break, and then we're going to come back into our business bookend.